Ladies and gentlemen, we will now begin Closing the Skills Gap, Building a World-Class Talent Pipeline, sponsored by AAM. Please welcome the Director of the Talent Investment Agency for the state of Michigan, Stephanie Comey, Chairman, President, and Chief Executive Officer of AAM, David Dauk, Vice President and Dean of Workforce Development at Grand Rapids Community College, Bill Pink, President and Chief Executive Officer of CMS Energy Corporation and Consumers Energy, John Russell. And moderating the discussion will be the founder and Chief Executive Officer of Michigan Business Network, Chris Holman.
Well, welcome everybody. We're glad you're here. And of course, you heard a lot of passion in the last presentation. You'll hear the same passion and concern for what we're going to talk about, which is the talent challenge facing the state of Michigan right now. #1 challenge by survey, as a matter of fact, coming in the state. Now we're running a little behind time, so you'll get no recess, and we're going to leave out all the vowels. So the best you can do, interpret if you will. But let's start with this, Stephanie, and let me go to you first, because the governor realized this talent shortage, and he did what about it?
Well, the governor heard loud and clear that the #1 challenge employers are facing around the state is the issue of talent and finding the right skill set and the potential workforce we have. So he created the Department of Talent and Economic Development. One of those elements is the Talent Investment Agency, and we are charged with really bridging the skills gap and making sure that every person in the state of Michigan knows the kinds of jobs, kinds of opportunities that are available to them.
You know, one of the nice things that they've taken on in your organization is the brokering piece for the companies in the state of Michigan to make sure that they get the talent, putting them together. And, you know, with that in mind, David, I think it'd be good to go right to you. Tell me about your skill situation in your plant, and probably the dichotomy of a lot of your skilled workers are going to be falling off soon.
Yeah, absolutely. And first and foremost, we're honored to be a sponsor of this event here today, and I'm also proud to be up here talking about growth and talent issues versus talking about restructure, resize, and recovery. But to your question, we've got an outstanding workforce. We've anticipated what our requirements are that are in the marketplace, tried to plan it with the business activities that we have there. But as you mentioned, a considerable amount of our workforce is around 55 years of age or older, and therefore they'll be retiring in the next 10 years. So there's clearly a talent gap that's there. We're trying to work proactively to identify what do we need to do to work with local universities, the community colleges, as well as putting our own skill set and training centers in our facilities to address the needs of the future.
Yeah, a lot of work to be done along those lines. Bill Pink, Workforce Development at Grand Rapids Community College. Tell me a little bit about what you folks are doing.
Well, one thing that we've done, Chris, is we've realized that partnership is the key. We can't do it without partnerships. We can't do it without collaboration, both in higher ed, with higher ed entities, as well as with industry. And so what we've done with the help of one of our local West Michigan partners, AutoCam, have developed what we call AMP, the Advanced Manufacturing Partnership. It's made up of our school with several other manufacturing partners, where we take students and the students become a full-time student at GRCC, but also the companies, through that partnership, actually hire those students. Basically, it's a classic internship, where 2 days a week those folks are full-time students at our institution. 3 days a week they're working right there with those companies, full-time, they're working. And what it does for us is that it gives us a good opportunity to make sure our training and the degree that we're supplying, it's tooling and manufacturing in this case, they leave with an associate's degree, but they also leave in terms of having a job already. What's nice about that and having that associate's degree and working already, not only does the partner have a good pipeline for workforce, but now that student, if they choose to, we can make some paths for them to move on for to their 4-year degree at one of our local institutions as well. But the key there is that manufacturing partner has a good look at who those folks are prior to them coming on full-time in that level of internship.
Yeah, it's good because it's interesting. It's not all just about skill sets. Sometimes it's about culture blending.
Definitely.
And seeing how they're working with you. And along those lines, John, you guys are doing a lot of these types of innovative.
Yeah, well, we're doing this. For years, we trained our own workers. It takes a very long time you think about a journey worker job where they're out there on the lines. We used to train them in-house. Took about 5 years, $125,000 of training just to get them to get that journey worker card. And part of the training is they have to work the lines hot. They risk their lives so we can keep the electricity on. One of the things we've done, though, to outsource that is we worked with community colleges for line worker training, gas training at Oakland Community College, Lansing Community College for line worker training. We also did something unique where we partnered with our union. The thought process was membership is declining, they need revenue. So we said, why don't you add value to us by training the employees on your own dime? And that's what they did. It's called Power for America. They built their own facility. We have a contract with them, which is based on performance, based on qualifications. And my belief is I think the best training comes from somebody that's done the job and is good at it. And that's who the union's hired, and the response has been fantastic. So it really, I think, is the next generation of how we need to add value to our workforce. And as Mike said earlier, it's not about labor, it's about work. And the best apprentice that you have is somebody that takes real interest in that job and wants to hand it down to somebody else.
Yeah, I've always said if you've got somebody coming to work for you, you've got the wrong person.
Exactly.
You want them to come to contribute. Steph, talk a little bit about the strategy in your department, how you're going to accomplish
Yeah, we have a couple initiatives that I think are really going to be key. The first is the Skilled Trades Training Fund. We're in the second year that we've had this. The governor has actually proposed doubling it for next year. It's a competitive grant program for employers to tap into to allow them the opportunity to train their current workforce or actually train people for empty jobs that they have where they're having trouble filling those jobs. It requires some leveraging of resources from the employer, from community colleges, from other partners. The other important thing, and it kind of plays into what Grand Rapids Community College is doing, is the middle college model, where after high school, after 5 years of high school, somebody's exiting with a high school diploma, a associate's degree, or a substantial number of credits, and a technical certification, right? So they can go right into the workforce if they so choose, or they can take those credits and pursue a 4-year degree. So it's a great model. It's a great way to expose kids to potential opportunities in high growth and high demand areas.
David, this has been a particularly difficult, I guess, leaving this last recession because it wasn't accompanied by the jobs coming back in the same numbers. So you've got the baby boomers dropping off. There's going to be a little bit of a lag there. But you've got a new employee that you have to have coming in underneath. The manufacturing job is not the same manufacturing job.
No, and I think it's important for people to recognize that we're moving from an industrial economy to a knowledge-based economy. So that industrial economy, there were jobs for essentially every skill set that was available that was out there. Today, with the knowledge economy, it requires a different level of skill set. And when I talk about the industrial economy, first and foremost, it was more of the mechanical, the hydraulic, and the mass production type environment that we were operating in our factories. Today, with the knowledge base, we need that level of worker that's in between that high school level as well as that 4-year degree level type of associate that Stephanie and Bill were talking about earlier. So we're trying to identify what are the needs that we have, not only today, but also forecasting those of the future, so that we can then partner with the different universities, whether they be the technical schools, the vocational schools, the community colleges, or the higher ed universities, in regards to what do we need? Because it's not just the worker, the skilled trades itself, it's also the highly skilled workers, the engineers that are in demand. And we're in the engineering and manufacturing business. We need engineers to design, develop, and validate our products, but we also need those same engineers to run our factories. And those factories are becoming much more automated, much more sophisticated, computer-controlled machines, full of robotics. It's a high-tech environment that most people aren't familiar with. They think of the old industrial days or the dark days, heat it, beat it, ship it type manufacturing approach. It's the furthest thing from that today in the manufacturing environment. So again, we're only as good as our people. And those people are the ones that build that product every day in production, while also taking care of that equipment from a skilled trade standpoint. And so we're working with mechanical type classifications, electrical classifications, machine repairman type classifications, and that's really what we need in order to sustain and grow our business moving forward and ultimately bring jobs and strengthen the economy here in Michigan.
Yeah,
and there's a cultural problem here we have in the state, right? We have a cultural problem with people not understanding what's available to them. And we have, you saw the highlight of one of the micro videos. We have a series of those that we're going to be launching later today that really show that manufacturing is a very different environment than it used to be. And I can assure the audience, he didn't use the word excrement in any of the videos. So they are available for viewing to your youngest child as your oldest child.
Yeah. I think I've had my fill of that, actually. Pretty good. Let's talk a little bit about certificate programs, because the associate's degree is important. It protects those credits. It moves on to 4-year if you want it. But certificate programs get to the nub of it pretty quickly.
And one of the things about that, Chris, is that as you start looking at certificate programs, so we talk about those being what we call stackable, so that if we have students that come into our program, to our one of our certificates, I want that certificate to be stackable to where as they attain that certificate, they now have option that if that's a certificate that they're going to walk out our door and be able to up the ante as far as their hiring is concerned, great. But I want it to be stackable that in case they want to come back and ask the question, so what would it take to get that associate's degree? That certificate is stackable in that it will apply to that associate's. It's built right into where all they need to do now is continue that progress toward the associate's without having to start over at some other level. No, let's make sure that those certificates, as much as possible, are stackable so that we can stack a degree on top of there. In some cases, there's another certificate that gets stacked on top of there before it gets to the degree. But we need to make sure, and one thing that we focus on at our place is trying to make sure that those certificates can be built upon in case a student does want to come back and finish that degree. They can do that.
Well, I think